Blizzard has just released so much new information around the Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred expansion, and this includes Runewords, a new co-op endgame dungeon, a long-requested looking for group feature, a completely reworked leveling and endgame journey, and much more. All these updates make Vessel of Hatred the definitive version of Diablo 4 that, frankly, we should have gotten a year ago when the game first came out. If you were burned badly by the endgame state during release, or any of the previous seasons didn't quite grip you, this expansion looks to be the period for you to come back and experience what Diablo 4 always should have been. To start, the first thing I want to highlight that I'm excited about, given I love the lore and story of this game, is a potential spoiler that Blizzard revealed during an itemization update. So we know that we get to experience Mephisto in the expansion, which frankly, if you were never sold on Lilith being the big bad, Mephisto being a primeval and the brother of Diablo is definitely a suitable choice. But on top of this, a new helm was showcased during the recent campfire chat, and one of the passives listed mentions that it increases damage to not only demons, but angels as well. Now, why else will this be listed if it doesn't mean we aren't going to also be fighting angels? Now, every time a prime evil emerged in Sanctuary, angels always got involved. In the previous games, it was always Tyrael on his lonesome, guiding the Nephilim to defeat the prime evils in Sanctuary. But in this case, if we're going to be battling angels, maybe the heavens are just trying to get rid of Sanctuary to protect itself from another potential army in Hell's conquest of Sanctuary. So maybe we'll see the Archangel Imperius, who is never a fan of Sanctuary to begin with, leading the charge here. Beyond the story, we have the new Runewords system, which adds another layer to item customization on top of masterworking and tempering, which were released in Season 4. These Runewords work a little bit differently than what we saw in Diablo 2. By mixing and matching 3 different types, you get to actually add passive skills to your items, including skills only available to other classes. I'm curious to see how this feature is going to play out given the differences from what we saw in Diablo 2. I'm pretty excited for it and how the rest of customization will feel. Of course, we do have the new Spiritborn class announced earlier this summer, which is going to be your jungle monk if you enjoyed the martial arts style back in Diablo 3, harnessing the powers of ancient jungle spirits to hone in combat. Now, the Spiritborn isn't the only new gameplay we're going to experience. Each class will also be getting a new active skill along with other passives to go along with it. And this will see the return of a couple of classic builds like the Diablo 2 throwing barbarian, and familiars from Diablo 3 return to the sorcerer. To further enhance our character, mercenaries make a comeback. Now, the mercenaries are part of a group called the Pale Hand, and each of them make up an RPG archetype. You got your tank mercenary, your ranged DPS, your melee DPS, and of course, your caster. Now, it seems like there's a good amount of customization here, similar to what you saw in Diablo 3. You'll be able to build out your companion skill tree, and although the mercenaries are similar to Diablo 3 in that you could only use them when playing solo, if you are grouped with an individual, you get to equip a mercenary's reinforcement ability that'll randomly trigger during combat, even when you're in a group, which is a cool new feature. In terms of new activities to do, they are adding a new co-op endgame dungeon. We have not experienced any co-op specific content in any of the Diablo games, so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But what I'm more excited about is that due to the new co-op endgame, they are adding, at last, a group finder mechanism within the game. No more going to the Diablo Discord looking for groups to fight different uber bosses. Also, it looks like there's going to be a new time attack mid to endgame activity, which will be the new definitive way to level, according to Blizzard. And speaking of leveling, Blizzard has completely revamped the leveling process. You could compare the degree of change here to that of loot back in Season 4. First off, there's a level squish. The maximum level is now 60, and each one of those 60 levels will strictly give you skill points. So that means you're going to achieve 10 more skill points than you did in the base Diablo 4 game. Also, you will be able to gain Paragon levels on top of level 60. They are not infinite. You'll be able to gain 300 Paragon points instead of the 200 you gained today. And this does not include the ones you earn from Renown or Lilith statues. use. And speaking of leveling, the progression system has changed as well. As it stands today, you're World Tier 1 or World Tier 2 until you hit around level 50, then you jump for World Tier 3 for barely 10 levels before you dive into World Tier 4. So they are completely getting rid of that. Now, leveling from 1 to 60, you get multiple different difficulty choices to level with, similar to what we saw pre-Torment in Diablo 3. And speaking of Torment, they're bringing back the Torment difficulty system in Diablo 4. However, this time, it's strictly limited to those who are already at max level, which is now level 60. The way this works now is that the endgame is going to be closely tied to the pit in terms of which difficulty you have access to. I believe that to access Torment 1, you need to clear 20 levels in the pit, and every Torment level after that, you need to clear an additional 15 levels to gain access to it. And each Torment level will increase the amount of gold, quality of the loot, as well as the experience you earn. Also, speaking of the pits, the endgame reward system has been reworked. The pit will no longer solely give masterworking mats, but will now be the way to level up your glyphs. And it's very similar to how we leveled up gems in Diablo 3. So at the completion of a rift, if the rift that you accomplish is at least 10 levels higher than your glyph, you'll have a 100% chance of upgrading your glyph automatically to that next level. It's more of like a chance system that we saw in the previous game than having to earn experience to level up your glyphs. That being said, the level of your glyph has been raised significantly. It's no longer 21, and then at level 46, you'll be able to get another radius boost to your glyph on top of a very powerful passive attribute such as multiplicative increased critical strike damage. The reason they made this change is Blizzard felt like players were doing nothing in Nightmare Dungeons, but just trying to clear them as fast as possible solely to level up glyphs. So now Nightmare Dungeons instead will be the ones rewarding you with masterworking material. This will be interesting to see because masterworking was always tied to the endgame ladder progression, so that if you wanted to get your items to level 12, you had to clear pretty high level pits or infernal hordes to be able to do so. Now, with all these updates, is Diablo 4 fully complete? Not quite. There are a few things that are still missing that I would love to see reworked. First off, there are no changes or additions to PvP that I heard of. So no potential battlegrounds, arenas, or other forms of PvP like in, say, Diablo Immortal. Also, strangely enough, there is not going to be any new world bosses on top of the 3 that we already have. This is curious to me, as I feel like those 3, we've been fighting them for so long now that some novelty added to the mix would be great. So it makes me wonder if Blizzard is trying to move away from the world boss concept. Third, as much as I enjoyed strongholds when I was first playing through Diablo 4, having to re-clear them to access certain nightmare dungeons and waypoints every season is quite redundant. I hope that they do expand on strongholds, potentially allowing us to build up these towns, protect them against future attacks, and just make it a more integrated, rewarding experience. That's it for this video, guys. Let me know in the comments down below if you feel like this is enough for you to come back and experience the game in Vessel of Hatred. If you enjoyed this video and also enjoy lore-focused videos, please consider subscribing and giving the channel a like. Thank you.